Welcome back to the Cronkite Sports Report. I'm Emily Bernstein. Earlier in the show, we told you how the voters in Tempe will have the final say in the Coyotes' $2.1 billion arena plan. The City Council approved the measure for public referendum. And NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman flew into town last night for the momentous occasion. The commissioner has been very vocal about his support for keeping the franchise in the Valley and thanked ASU for sharing Mullet Arena with the Coyotes as their temporary home. Bettman is steadfast in his belief that the Coyotes not only belong in the Valley, but can thrive here.
We've been as committed to this community as any major league sports league could be. I mean, there's no question about that. Just look at the actions and look at the history, and that commitment from us has never wavered.
Now to a story about a former Coyotes great, Shane Doan, who has made his way from an ice rink to a grassy field. Cronkite News reporter Nikki Pica has more on the Coyotes legend who has a new passion for polo.
Hockey is not the only thing the Doan name is known for. While growing up in Alberta, Canada, Shane Doan found himself in a saddle for most of his young life.
You know what, I grew up doing that more than I did anything else. Until I was about 15 or 16, that was kind of, I lived at home, and during the weekends we would have groups out that I'd take trail riding. And then during the summer we'd ride from about 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Doan's family has a legacy in the cowboy world. His grandfather, great-uncles, and uncle were inducted into the Canadian Rodeo Hall of Fame. Shane chose the path less traveled by the Doan family.
My joke is if I wasn't tough enough to be a cowboy, so I had to be a hockey player, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Doan took his experience on horseback and elite hand-eye coordination and used it to his advantage.
Playing hockey and my ability to ride the combination would be a good combo. So I thought about it. They asked me to roll the ball out, which is to start the polo match last year. And when after I rolled the ball out, I sat and watched, and I was like, oh, this would be fun.
Shane Doan makes his debut in his first ever polo match after a month long of training for this special day.
He's used to following orders and following what you tell him to do, right? But he has a special talent, you know. He got the mallet, the strings, like if he has done this before. He has developed this special connection with the horses that he has ridden. First thing that I remember about him is that he came and he asked for the name of the horse. Usually people don't do that. They just come and they just get on the horse and they use it like it's a bike.
And Shane felt comfortable. He took the field and competed in his first polo match in front of a packed Westworld field. Gallery dressed to the nines in hats and slacks. Shane wore number 19, the number he wore with the Arizona Coyotes, along with an ear-to-ear smile. In Scottsdale, Nikki Pica, Cronkite News.
Besides polo, Doan can still be seen on the ice as he is working with the Coyotes as their Chief Hockey Development Officer. The College Football Playoff Committee released the rankings last night, which makes the bowl picture a little clearer. Remember, the Verbo Fiesta Bowl here in Glendale will be a playoff semifinal game. As we look at the rankings, the top 4 teams at the moment who would make the playoffs are Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and USC. Sitting just outside at 5 and 6 are Ohio State and Alabama. If the Trojans make the playoffs, there's a possibility they will play in the Fiesta Bowl. And with a spot in the Final Four, the Pac-12 conference as a whole would receive $6 million to be divided by all of the teams, which of course would benefit ASU and Arizona.
While the rankings from the start have led up to Sunday, and we know a lot based on last night's rankings, the rankings that really matter are the final ones. So it gives us an idea of what we can expect now based on, where things are going. You can make some educated guesses.
The ASU men's basketball team takes on Colorado tomorrow night, but the conversation is less about who's on the court and more about who isn't. Sun Devil forward Marcus Bagley has not played since November 10th. He recently took his frustration to Twitter. Bagley tweeted a long message saying in part, "Out of frustration, I made a mistake and said some things to Coach Hurley that I shouldn't have." He later tweeted that he had been suspended for that post. Head coach Bobby Hurley issued a statement saying Bagley would be out for tomorrow's conference opener for violating team rules. Bagley was a part of ASU's historic 2020 recruiting class, but it's been a disappointing tenure in Tempe. The winningest high school girls basketball coach in Arizona history has come out of retirement to coach a former player's team. Cronkite News reporter Liam Barrett went to Desert Ridge High School to talk to the program's new head coach.
Minor Webster retired in 2018 as the winningest head coach in Arizona high school girls basketball history. Now he's coming back to coach Desert Ridge. If you're wondering what brought him back, it wasn't the time off.
Retirement was great. I highly recommend it to anybody.
Webster was happy in retirement, but when his former star player Erin O'Brien had to step down for personal reasons, she asked him to take over her head coaching role. The opportunity was too good to pass up. Current player Ariel Walker says that Webster hasn't missed a beat since last coaching.
Even though he is retired for about 4 or 5 years, you can tell coming back, he still got it, he knows what he's doing, and he's a really good basketball coach.
Webster has accomplished more at his position than anybody, winning over 800 games in his career. But that might not last for long. Seton Catholic head coach Karen Self is approaching his record win total, something Webster says he's not worried about.
What we've accomplished, it means a lot to me, but it means a lot to me because of the kids that I had that accomplished it. Hopefully we're going to get some wins this year, and it's going to up my total a little bit probably, but Coach Self over at Seton is going to catch me eventually.
Webster humbly projects a few wins, but the goal is to win another title. With 8 championships under his belt, the team is already feeling the impact of having such a legendary coach.
Honestly, it gives us a lot more confidence, I'd say, having a coach that we know has already taken so many teams so far. I want to be able to be that team for him as well.
In what could be the last season of an Arizona Basketball Hall of Famer's career, Desert Ridge looks to add to Webster's storied history. In Mesa, Liam Barrett, Cronkite News.
So far, Webster has the team off to a 2-2 start to the season. That does it for this edition of Cronkite Sports Report. Back to you, Ryan.